Hello everyone, welcome to today's show. We got a great one for you back on this Monday for your starting the week off right here with Newsflash. Thank you so much for listening to us today. Donald Trump is reportedly mulling a huge and legally dubious tax cut for the rich. We'll explain. Roy Moore set off Sacha Baron Cohen's pedophile detector. Medicare for all will save trillions. Conservative wonks are forced to admit as a new report comes out. New York Times gets played by the dumbest man alive. More reasons not to vote for Jason Lewis. Jeff Sessions starts a religious liberty group. Oh no. And the excise chief reacted to video of crying kids. This should be good. Alright, we got a great show for you today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Newsflash. Alright, we really appreciate it for you. Thank you so much for joining us here today. My absolute pleasure to have you with us, as we got a lot of great stories for you. All right, so we're going to start off with this. Today, the Trump administration, as reported now by the New York Times on Monday, they said that the Trump administration is considering a new $100 billion tax cut for the America's ultra-rich on top of an already massive windfall they received as part of the Republican tax bill that we now know they are, in fact, not putting back to the economy. That's a shocker. That was signed into law in 2017. The move could see wealthy Americans able to adjust initial stock purchases for inflation when calculating their subsequent capital gains tax, thereby lowering the ultimate amount owed. Here's the time. So currently, the capital gains taxes are determined by subtracting the original price of an asset from the price at which it was sold and taxing the difference, usually at 20%. If a higher earner spent $100,000 on stock in 1980 and sold it for $1 million today, she would owe $900,000 in taxes. But if her original purchase price would be adjusted for inflation, it would be about $300,000, reducing her taxable gain to $700,000. That would save the investor $40,000. So it's a pretty big difference, obviously. It is a very, very big difference, $40,000. And this is, like, let's be honest here. These scales will be a lot higher in most of these people's situations. So, again, this is pretty much just blatantly helping the rich here. So, I mean, the chances that it passes are, I mean, you can never put, like, with taxes, and I mean, I've definitely said this before on the show, with taxes, they are literally the only thing the GOP seems to be able to reunite on, and you cannot underestimate their ability to try and push taxes through because they're so important to their agenda, so important to serving their donors, which we come back to time and time again. These people, especially the GOP, but also the Democrats in a very big way, are in the pocket of their donors. For the donors who donate to the GOP, that enables them. For the donors who donate to the Democrats, that restricts them to not fight for left-wing causes, like people like Bernie Sanders or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or whoever. Yeah, so currently that's how it's going to work. So the Times quoted Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin saying in an interview at the G20 summit in Argentina that the administration is looking into whatever it can simply enact, whether it can possibly simply enact the latest boondoggle without even having to go through Congress. Yeah, so that's they can definitely get it passed. If it can't get done through a legislation process, we'll look at what tools the Treasury what we can have to do on our own, and we'll consider that. So pretty much if this is not going to get passed through Congress, which I mean there is a upward 65% chance it gets passed anyway because it's Congress and it's Republican-controlled Congress, heavily in the pocket of big donors, so it is a very good chance that this gets passed. But if it's not, the Steve Mnuchin Treasury Department will look into that for us as well and see how they can give even more money to the rich, which, by the way, Steve Mnuchin probably is definitely a direct benefit from. I mean, he's not in the pocket of the rich. He is the rich. He is Donald Trump's donor. And he gets to put in place a position where, where he can influence policy directly benefit himself. That's why this is so dangerous. And just the whole idea of a Trump presidency is so dangerous because there's people here who are not worried about hiding their love for the rich, because they are the rich. They're the top 1%. They're the thing that everyone talks about, and it is very worrying to know that they're in power and they have that possibility over it. So capital gains taxes are almost entirely benefit the wealthiest of Americans, who, unlike most people, are in a position to actually earn a sizable amount of money from their stock investments. They were left untouched in the GOP's tax bill, the crowning piece of legislation for Republicans, which has since been found by a bipartisan team of Harvard economists to likely amount to a $1 trillion loss for the country as a whole. Shocking, I know. And by the way, one thing you must always remember when dealing with the GOP, they have one thing in which, well, actually multiple things, in which they are willing to compromise all their values for. And one of the big things is tax cuts for the rich. Everything they say they care about, it's all fraud. They throw it out the window. They are liars. They just bamboozle you every time. They screw you out of your money, and it is just a horrible situation to be living under a GOP-controlled government here in the United States. Yeah, so this is not the first time adjusting a capital gains tax to inflation has been considered by a Republican president. As Times noted, in 1992, George H.W. Bush administration considered and ultimately rejected the argument that could illegally index capital gains tax through regulatory rather than legislative action. Trump, however, apparently suffers from no such scruples. It'll be put into place. It'll be challenged at the courts. Maybe it'll succeed. Maybe it won't. I don't know the legal mumbo jumbo behind that. But there is a definite possibility. Oh, there's always a possibility that it will be likely that this takes place. Anyway, yeah, it's going to be something worth watching in this situation. Wow, saving people. No, that case, that scenario I explained to you earlier is horrifying. That could become law. Anyway, yeah, we conquered one story now. We are moving on, baby. All right, we are now on to our next story, which is going to be a little bit funner story. This is an incredible clip. Sacha Baron Cohen on interviewing with Roy Moore. He's been on one hell of a roll lately, pretty much. So this is, as we know, we talked about it last week and the week before that on the show, but now he's back for his third week. There's literally the Sacha Baron Cohen recap show, and it makes sense because he is one of the people who is probably the best. Like, he's probably the best at tricking people. Like, there's no other comedian I've ever seen who's done anything like this before. It's incredible stuff. Anyway, so here is a clip of Sacha Baron Cohen on talking with Roy Moore. You know, apparently set off something of his new. So yeah, this is his pretty much. It's like Sacha Baron Cohen. He pretends to be Aharon Maharat, who's the Israeli counterterrorism expert. He sat down with accused child molester and disgraced former Senate candidate Roy Moore and showed him a high-tech military innovation made by Israel capable of detecting pedophiles that produce because based on like the enzymes they produce, something crazy like that.
If they detect the pedophile, the one that alerts the law enforcement and the schools within a 100-mile radius. It is very, very simple to use. You just switch it on, and because neither of us are sex offenders, then it makes absolutely nothing. You just put it on, you put it nearby. Wait, this is obviously a problem. Hold on. It must be faulty. It's malfunctioning. I'm sure it will do the same with the other guy here. Chezi? Yeah. Let me just take it. Sorry, is this your jacket?
Yes.
Did you lend the jacket to somebody else, maybe?
No. I've been married for 33.
Sure.
I never had an accusation of such things.
I am not accusing you at all. This is
well,
not...
then, if this is an instrument, certainly I'm not a pedophile, okay?
No, but the machine is...
Well, I don't know. Maybe Israeli technology hasn't developed properly.
This is 99.8% accurate.
Well,
it is not saying that you are a pedophile, of course not.
I am simply cutting this conversation right now.
No.
Thank you.
Have you been?
Been nice.
Have you
I
been in the
support
Philippines?
Israel. I don't support this kind of stuff.
No, it is. I'm not saying that you're a sex offender at all.
Who is America? Let that even play. Great show. Yeah, so Sacha Baron Cohen, he's malfunctioning. And yeah, that's just some great stuff. Anyway, yeah, so Roy Moore getting pranked there pretty good with an interview there, and you know he had to include that. Like, that's something that's very good. I was wondering, like, he's talking about Israeli technology. I don't really know how he's gonna play this here, but it just seems like, and then just pulled out anywhere. It was like, oh, that's pretty good. All right, so we move on. Speaking of things that are pretty good, a brand new report about how Medicare for All will actually be more economically prosperous than really any other system that's being currently proposed. Yeah, so for all the people out there who are like, we like Medicare for All, universal health care, that's gonna bust everything. Like, it's people are just not paying attention. They're listening to old sources, and they're becoming misinformed, and that's their problem, and they need to get out of that. So, yeah, so pretty much, as we know, the rapid emergence of Medicare for All as a mainstream proposal in the Democratic Party has been accompanied by the question that everyone seems to be asking all these people. Cortez, you saw with Trevor Noah this past week. How are you going to pay for that? How are you going to pay for that? So, yeah, the AP reported that the Libertarian Mercatus Center, a Koch-funded policy center, which is based out of University Law School, is named after Antonin Scalia. They had an answer. So this is pretty much about, like, these are, if you wanted to put in a laboratory room, you wanted to build the people who would be most against this system and who would hate this system the absolute most, it's these people. The Libertarian Mercatus Center, which is a Koch-funded policy center based out of a university whose law school is named after, like, that's the Antonin School. That's the triple whammy of things. Like, yes, this is George Mason University and Scalia Law School. Like, you think these people are going to be against these plans? Like, it makes sense. It's the definite logical assumption. So, yeah, this is their statement here. Senator Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All plan will boost government health spending by $32.6 trillion over 10 years, requiring historic tax hikes, says a study released Monday by a university-based Libertarian Policy Center. That's trillion with a T. The Mercatus analysis estimated that so $32.6 trillion over 10 years. It's going to be a lot. It's definitely going to be a lot. There's no doubt about that. There's no denying that. But it goes on to say the Mercatus Center analysis estimated that the 10-year cost of Medicare for All from 2022 to 2031, after an initial phase-in, this is the phase-in period, its findings are similar to those of several independent studies of Sanders' 2016 plan. Those studies found increases in federal spending over 10 years that range from $24.7 trillion to $34.7 trillion. So that's how analysis. So Representative Ro Khanna of California put what this means in the context of our current healthcare costs. So this is based on, so picture the $32.6 trillion number in your mind. So when someone says that Medicare for All costs $32 trillion, Ro Khanna tweets, we should mention that how our current system costs $49 trillion. Medicare for All would take out the excessive cost of insurance, hospital facility fees, and prescription drugs out of the equation. So, yeah, that's pretty much taking all the excess crap we have floating around our healthcare system, taking that out, placing it in with literally the most popular Medicare for All system that we have. Like, the most popular system, Medicare. Medicare is our most popular healthcare system. We put that in place and take out all the crap, garbage aspects of our healthcare system that are present now. And we get rid of all that. And then, all of a sudden, we have a system that costs $32 trillion. Sounds like a lot, but our current system